Welcome to the We Rock Judges video. We could not have a successful event without your help. You'll be asked to judge competitors on a live course. And just like any pro sporting event, there'll be good calls and bad calls. All we ask is do your best, be safe, and be consistent, and have fun. Your safety, the safety of our spectators, and our competitors are our first priority. If you feel unsafe while on course, or you feel others are in an unsafe location, make sure to rectify the situation. If necessary, call time and get a marshal involved. While judging on course, make sure that you're in a safe location as well. Rocks that can be kicked loose from a vehicle or even a falling vehicle from a climb can be a hazard. Also make sure rocks that can get kicked up from a tire. So if you're behind a vehicle, that is not the safest place to be. If possible, make sure you put yourself in a safe location to make good judgment calls. Outside coaching of judges will not be allowed. If another team or spectator off of course has an issue, they will have to wait until the course is finished. If necessary, call time and get a marshal involved. A marshal will not overturn a judge's call, but they will help interpret the rules in case there's a misunderstanding. It's going to be a long, hot day. Enjoy the action, be safe, and do your best to keep the courses running quickly. Thank you for making this event possible.
Okay, each time you start a team through a course, before they get there, as they're setting up, you want to make sure all your cones are properly placed, make sure your banners are where they should be, and make sure the course is clear of the crowd and other competitors, because they are allowed to kind of be around the courses, but once that team is up and running, all the other competitors have to be off the course. You'll come over, make sure they got their helmet on and the chin strap on, check to see if their harnesses are on. You don't have to pull on them, just make sure they're wearing them. Get their scorecard, and then set your timer. Make sure that it has the exact amount of time, the course time, that they have on it. If it's 10 minutes, that timer had better say 10 minutes. It counts down to 0. Okay, the start gate will have a course designator, A1, B2, C3, and also a map below it to help the teams know where they're supposed to go. At the same time, you as a judge can ask the team, do you have any questions? Or you can tell them any special circumstances if there happen to be any for that course. Answer all their questions as honest as you can, but if you don't know for sure, get a marshal. Find out the answer, because let's be fair and professional. Okay, to start the course, guess what? Team lines up. The first person or vehicle to break the plane from that team, that means the spotter or the driver can be outside the vehicle if they want. As soon as they break the plane of the start gate, the time starts. If that vehicle drives through the start gate, time starts. Or if there's a spotter outside and there's a big rock that they want to bring in from outside of the course, you need to be watching. The second that they pick that rock up, time starts. That's the way it goes. The time then counts down from there, from however many minutes, to 0. Okay, as soon as they break the start plane, make sure you have started your timer going. Then don't take your eyes off the start cones. That is their first gate, and they can easily run over one of those cones. No doubt about it. The second you turn their back, you're going to run one over. So make sure they're clear of that start gate cone. Make sure every call you make, whether it's a cone, a reverse, a timeout, no matter what, if you make a call, make it loud. They need to hear you, because you got to realize they've got a lot going on. They have radio communications they're using, they have loud engines, and they've got a lot of adrenaline. Make sure they hear it. That helps.
Course flow is laid out in the course map. Here you can see the start gate at the bottom, going to gate number 1, over to gate number 2, and then looping back around to gate number 3, and then the finish. Teams must go in order and cannot go backwards through any gates. The start and finish gates have a little bit different restrictions on it due to the possibility of spectators being close to the boundary. As you can see here, this vehicle is working its way to gate number 1, they have to take a reverse and they have accidentally backed out through the start gate. This is an immediate disqualification, as we cannot have vehicles leaving the course into the spectator area. Same goes for the finish gate when it is run out of order. As you can see, the vehicle moving forward and now repositioning. As soon as the rear tires of that vehicle has crossed the plane, that is a disqualification. Intermediate gates, however, will receive a 10-point penalty for breaking the plane of any unintended gate. So we can see the vehicle here working through gate number 2. They have to reposition, but accidentally break the plane with the right rear tire of gate number 3. That is out of order, and that is against course flow. Breaking the plane on any gate out of order is a 10-point course flow penalty. The teams will receive a warning and then also be given the opportunity to reattempt the course in the appropriate direction. If a team receives progression on a gate out of order, that is a disqualification and they will be done for the course. Here we saw this vehicle attempt gate number 3 before going to gate number 2. When they broke the plane, they received a 10-point course flow penalty and were given the opportunity to retry gate number 2.
As they go through, you're going to be looking for reversals. Okay? This is the key. When a team backs up on purpose, they get a point for reverse. Now, a tricky thing. Not all reversals are reversals. Let's define that. Sometimes the team needs to disengage the rear wheel drive or disengage the front wheel drive. For a split second, if they were going forward just a second ago, they have to put it into reverse then neutral, and you'll notice that the vehicle settles. It actually sometimes will roll backwards just a fraction of an inch, maybe 2 inches. That's acceptable because you can see that what they're doing is they're shifting out of four-wheel drive into front-wheel drive only, so they can actually do what's called a front burn or a rear burn to change the angle of the vehicle. That's legal. However, if they're backing up 10 inches to do that, that's a reversal. Still on the reversal subject, sometime an obstacle is so steep or so slippery that the vehicle will be denied or pushed back by the obstacle, actually sliding backwards with loss of traction. That's not a reversal, unless you notice that a team is doing it on purpose. They're climbing up a hill and sliding backwards and sliding the vehicle sideways at the same time, and then doing it again and sliding it sideways so that they can actually move the vehicle sideways. Then it's a tough call. It's your call, but if it looks like they're gaining advantage from it in a big way, they get called on a reverse every time they do it. Sometimes as the vehicles are going forward, they'll actually put the vehicle in reverse and continue to move forward. You'll see this. They'll burn rubber with the back tires or the front tires, whatever, as they're going in reverse. The vehicle progress is going forward, but if the tires are spinning backwards, you call them for a reverse. Hitting cones. This is the hardest one for you to judge. You really got to watch for it. There's all kinds of tricks that the teams may try to get away with. The first is the vertical plane of the cone. They don't actually have to touch the cone in order to get called for a cone. If their tire bridges over the top of a cone, whether it's just because of the design of the obstacle or whether the team actually stacked rocks to drive up and over the cone. If they cross the vertical plane of the cone, it's a cone. Call it. She hasn't touched it, has she? But she's over the vertical plane. Now, vertical plane doesn't mean which way the cone is leaning. So if the cone is out here, but pointing that way, that doesn't mean the vertical plane is that way. That means the vertical plane is straight up into space. One of the toughest rules to judge happens to be passing between the gates, because you really have to catch a lot. This is only for the start gate and the intermediate gates. I'll get to the finish gate later because it has a little bit different set of rules. But the rule states to pass through, you have to have 3 tires on or between the cones. Now, if I pass outside of the cone with one tire, but just barely nick the base. Just barely nick it. As long as I've touched it, I'm considered on or between the cones, and that tire becomes legal. Your job as a judge is to count and to make sure that each set of gates, the vehicle has gotten 3 tires on or between. If they happen to make a mistake and get 2 tires outside of the cones, then you need to immediately warn them. They'll back up and start again. We'll get to that later. Now, to help you out, watch a few of these clips and it'll help you understand the 3-tire rule. Here, the vehicle passes the 2 front tires through, so 2 are already legal. Now, the vehicle will do a front burn and actually straddle the right-hand cone with the back axle. The right rear tire is going to be outside, but because the left rear tire goes between the cones, that's 3 tires between the cones. That left rear actually even could have touched the cone, and it still would have been legal because 3 tires on or between. Now, you can see the vehicle is going to straddle the cone with the front axle. Look, the right front didn't even come close to making it between the cones, but that's okay. 1 tire is through. Look at the left rear. It's going to go between, and the right rear goes over. That's 3 tires on or between. That's legal. Next up, something that's real common on high-speed climbs. You really got to watch for this. It's called a double straddle, and it is illegal. Both right-hand tires go outside of the cone. Obviously, this is in slow-mo. This is easy to see, but watch for this. If they do this, you got to tell them to go back and do it again. The next part, this is a tough one to see, but the left front tire actually drives over the left-hand cone. The left front is legal. That's 1 tire through. The right front is legal because it's between. But look, when they do the front burn, the rear tires, both of them go outside of the gate. Even look at the dirt. You can see the skid mark there. Guess what? That's illegal. You have to tell them to go back because the 2 front tires were legal, but the 2 backs were illegal. 3 tires on or between. All right, some gates have a different color top on them. It might be green, it might be blue, it might be red. This is a standard intermediate gate. This is a bonus gate. Depending on the color, the point value changes, so you need to know that. The marshal will tell you before you start judging your course how much that particular bonus gate is worth. The teams do not have to try to go through the bonus. It's an option for them to gain some more points. If they're able to complete the bonus, whether they touch the cone or not, as long as they complete the bonus gate with 3 tires on or between the gates, you're good to go. If they straddle the gate or they don't get through it, you need to make the team aware that they did not make their gate. That goes the same with intermediate gates as well, but if they don't complete the gate, they're illegal on the course, and they're either disqualified or they have to go back and re-attempt the gate until they get it. Or if they're denied by a bonus gate over and over and they choose that it's a little too difficult for them, it's legal for them to go back onto the course where they left it and complete the regular course going through the regular intermediate gates. They do acquire all the penalties along the way, though, even when they were trying that bonus gate. The next thing is these boundaries. Let's talk about those. Their stringer banner and pennant all along the course is to tell the teams where they have to stay within. It's also to keep spectators out. Don't let those spectators come into the course, please. The next is the teams. This is the official line, right? But look, it's windy. This is blowing in, blowing out, whatever. So it may be different for one team than it is another. Let's say the wind changes. What we do is we give them a little room for error. This is a judgment call on your shoulders. We allow a team to rub a banner. If they're rubbing it with their tires, no big deal. A spotter, he can grab it, jump outside of it, go under it. It doesn't matter. If the vehicle starts getting into the banner and starts pushing it out, you give them a warning right then and there. There's a warning for the banner. If the team chooses to back up or go forward without pushing any farther into the banner, good for them. Their warning is clear. However, if in going forward or going in reverse, they push the banner even more, then it's 10 points You've gone further outside the banner. Any further and you're disqualified. That's your call. So, as they rub the banner, it's okay. If they start to get into the banner, warning. Then 10 points, then out of bounds. You're done. It's that simple. Be loud, be clear, tell the driver, and make sure the spotter hears it. The louder you are, the better it is for everybody. Rock stacking. The teams need them sometimes to put a rock in front of a tire or behind a tire to help it climb up or to help it stop and not move while they're trying to do a rear burnout or a front burnout. There's lots of things you can use rock stacking for, but it's a risk for the spotter. Therefore, spotters are not allowed to stack a rock or move a rock within 3 feet of a moving tire. 3 feet, that's it. Right now, I can place this rock right here because that tire's not moving. If she was spinning that front tire, I couldn't set it. The closest I can be is about right there. If they're any closer, you give them a warning. You don't give them a second warning. You ding them for 10 points for safety. Something that was a common practice is now outlawed is stacking a rock for a burn and then standing on it or propping it with your foot. Sometimes the team will throw a rock under a back tire and stand against it while the vehicle is in a front burn. That helps keep that tire from rolling forward. That is a 10-point penalty, instant, no warning. One more thing about the rock stacking. After a team has completed a course, they're allowed to go back. They've got a couple of minutes to unstack all their rocks. However, if they pulled a rock downhill to put in a hole, they can't take it further downhill. They either have to move it back to where they got it or leave it where it stands. Next, if they took a rock from down below and moved it up, they can't take that rock and throw it because that's unsportsmanlike conduct. There is no way that next team can now use that rock because it's busted into a bunch of pieces. They have to carry it down, roll it down, get it down without breaking it. Otherwise, it's unsportsmanlike. You need to bring in a marshal in that case. The next thing is that spotter, when he sees that vehicle start to lean over, he's going to want to grab it. He wants to. You know what? Bless him for trying, but it's against the rules. Spotter manipulation of the vehicle. That means manhandling the vehicle, pulling it to change its attitude, grabbing a tire, doing anything where he touches the vehicle while it is in motion is illegal. If the vehicle is stopped, he can pull all he wants. He can grab on here, he can hook his spotter strap on, he can climb up on it to get to something, a tool or whatever's in the vehicle. He can do what he wants as long as that vehicle is not moving. Also, if the vehicle rolls over, he can flip it back over, or he can at least try. But if those tires are turning, it's against the rules. It's an instant 10-point penalty. The second time is disqualification. So, if that vehicle flops onto its side and he grabs onto its roof and leans into it, and those wheels start to roll, 10 points. And a warning. One more time, past that warning, disqualify him. Okay, like we were saying, if the vehicle's on its side, that spotter and driver, the driver can get out of the car and help right it. If another person comes into the course to help them flip it up, or they have asked for assistance to flip it over, time stops. It's outside assistance the second somebody else comes onto the course to help them out. Now, if they haven't called for somebody, you know, sometimes people just run onto the course instantly thinking, oh, they're done. But that team still wants to ride it, then you need to determine the situation. Is that person just running onto the course? They don't belong there. Kick them back off until that team says they're done. But if they've called someone in, it's outside assistance, they are done. The next thing is outside communication. We can talk back and forth. If I'm a spotter, she's a driver, we have radio communication or no radios, we're just yelling at each other through the course. That's fine. People outside the course can yell as well and try and communicate. However, they cannot use radio communication, they can't use a bullhorn or anything like that. It's just got to be with their voice, and they must be in the spectator area. So, if there's a course boundary and then a spectator boundary, then if there's somebody from outside of the driver and spotter yelling, they had better be outside of that spectator boundary. Otherwise, you warn them instantly and you call a marshal instantly. Get that situation handled, because outside assistance from the course areas is illegal. Spotter strap. This is one of those things that's slowly being eliminated from the sport. However, if it's currently legal while you're seeing this tape, understand this. The spotter is allowed to hook a rope to the vehicle and pull on it to counterbalance the car or help pull it up the hill, as long as where they're pulling from does not put them at a great risk by being run over by the vehicle, or does not put them closer to 15 feet from where they're pulling from. Now let's say I just hook this rope to the front of the rig. I'm allowed to just wander around with it just hanging without a deduction. But the second that I put weight into it and that line comes tight, then the penalty points are accrued or the bonus points are not given. Just depends on how the scoring is currently being done at that time. If you feel that the spotter is pulling from an unsafe location, you give them an instant warning, loud and clear. If they do not heed that warning, it's a penalty and then a disqualification. Make sure that you know what the disqualification or penalty points are currently, because they are changing throughout this season, and this spotter strap will probably go away in 2007. Last thing about the spotter strap, no matter what, the spotter may not wrap the rope around their hand, they may not wrap the rope around their body, they may not wrap the rope around a tree or a rock or anything else. If they're gonna pull, that rope has got to be in a straight line, and they have to be pulling from a T-handle or from the rope itself in a straight line. They can have knots in it. They cannot put their hand in a loop like this, because it could trap their hand and pull them if the vehicle rolls over. Winching. Sometimes teams need to pull out their winch cable and hook it up to a rock or to a safe winch point and pull themselves up or out of the obstacle with their winch cable. It's a 30-point hit instantly if a team does this as soon as the winch line comes tight. You're allowed to hook a cable onto the vehicle to keep it from rolling over. As long as that cable has slack in it, it's okay. It's called a safety at that point. Now, keep in mind though, if a team has already hit one cone or has a rear steer and 5 backups, they're sitting at 10 points already. If they're at 10 or more points, the second that they hook up their winch cable and that winch cable comes tight, that's 40 points. So they're done. So keep track of your math as you're going through these courses. That's very important, that you're always paying attention to your math. The second that team is pointed out, has reached 40 points, you need to call them done. That way they don't go on through the course and risk more damage to their vehicle. Next, teams are allowed breakdown time. If they break their vehicle, they have 45 minutes to repair it. If a team comes to you to sign their card for breakdown time, you take a note on your watch or on your stopwatch or whatever of the time, you write that down on their card and sign them in for breakdown time. Then, it's that team's job to get back to you within 45 minutes. If it's 45 minutes and 1 second, they're too late. They're disqualified for the rest of the day. But they will come to you and ask to sign in. Take note though, if you're in the middle of walking a course and another vehicle is coming through and that team is coming back to sign back in and they try and get your attention, look down, you see that they're trying to get your attention, instantly try and take note on your watch or on your clock of what time it is. Try. However, don't let that take your attention away from the vehicle that's competing on course. If you miss a cone call because of somebody else, that's a bad thing. So when it's practical and prudent, check your time, make a note of it, and then once that vehicle is through the course that you're judging, then go down and sign them out of their breakdown time. Quite simple. Do it fair. Fluid loss. Our sport, we need to be very careful about the environment. So it's quite straightforward. If you lose any fluids, doesn't matter if it's water or oil or a can of Red Bull that tips over inside your moving vehicle and the Red Bull dumps out onto the ground. Well, that'd be a shame, wouldn't it? But guess what? It's also a 10-point hit. Any fluids, more than an occasional little drip that comes from time to time. Anything more than a drip, 10 points, nail them for it. Make sure you call it out loud though. If it becomes excessive, lots of transmission fluid, if it's water, some water coming out, that's not a big deal. But if it's lots of oil or transmission fluid, call them immediately. Stop. Consistency is always a difficult thing as well. You'll find in the morning you're walking a course one way, in the afternoon you're walking it a little bit different. Well, that doesn't give consistency to each team. So your job is to pre-plan when you get here in the morning, how are you going to walk your course? You always need to see the exact same cones for every team from the exact same angle, if it's possible and practical and safe. So that means in the morning, pick a line, and then every single time walk that exact same line. Then, as you're going through the course, make sure that if you have any questions about anything rules-wise or safety-wise, call a timeout. Just say stop. Timeout! Loud and clear. They need to stop, shut the vehicle down. You guys need to address whatever situation there is, be it safety or fairness or rules, whatever it is. Then you tell them, all right, I'm going to give you a 5-second countdown, and on those 5-second countdown, or at the end of that 5 seconds, your time will start again. Are you ready? When they say they're ready, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time has started, and then they continue. Finish gate. That's the last set of gates on a course, usually the tallest 2 cones. You must break the plane of the finish gate with 2 tires before your time is stopped. Now, that cone and that cone, those 2 finish cones, are both eligible for 10 points apiece if you happen to hit them before 2 tires cross. So, if a vehicle is rolling through, if a vehicle rolls through sideways and hits the cones with its roof or its body before 2 tires actually cross the plane, then both cones have been hit. That's 20 points worth of hits. If that 20 points took them over into 40 points, guess what? They're DQ'd before they officially finished the course. If they're only 2 inches from finishing the course, and trust me, we've seen this, and they can't get those tires, they're trying to roll the vehicle through the finish line, if they can't break the plane, it's still no good. They didn't break the plane. They take their points according to not finishing the course within the time limit or within the mandatory points. So, to break the plane, 2 tires must break it. I can straddle the cone. If I straddle it, then that means I'm hitting it with the front axle most likely, or the rear axle, or whatever. The left tire may pass between the cones or on the cones. That tire is legal. That's the first tire that's broken the plane. Then the second back tire, or front tire if the vehicle's backing through, that one would count. Confusing? Not really. You just have to see it and you'll understand it. Cone! Time to stop! 2 tires break the plane. This time it was the front right and the rear right because she straddled the cone with the front axle. I've been saying it a lot, but it is your job as a judge or an official to be loud. And either team member that you tell, the driver or the spotter, make sure that it's crystal clear. If you tell one team member, you've told the entire team. It's generally best to be very loud so that they both hear you, but the one that's closest to you is the one that you really need to communicate to because they have the best odds of hearing. Okay? If you're not loud, well, it's a problem for everybody, including you, because you're going to hear it from the team. They're going to let you know. One tricky thing that some teams may choose to do is back into a course. If they start by breaking the plane of the start gate in reverse, backing up, It is legal. However, once they break the plane in reverse, you immediately call them for a reverse. Everything goes as normal, as if they had gone in forwards and then just backed up and gotten a reverse. However, if they're able to drive through the entire course in reverse without ever driving forward and get through the exit gate with no issues, without changing direction and going back forward, you actually give them that 1 point back. So it was like they never reversed at all. However, if they are going in reverse through the start gate and they change direction and have to go forward anytime in the course, then it's just a regular reverse. You've already given them the point. Don't sweat it. All right, the other thing is quite often a vehicle or a rock or something will hit the cone and knock it over or out of position. There will still be the 4 marks of the cone. That then becomes the cone, the vertical plane of the cone. If a vehicle drives over one of the dots or that box that is outlined by the cone dots, it's a cone, even if the cone is not there. You use those dots as your boundaries also to determine whether they got 3 tires on or between the cones for intermediate gates, or whether they got 2 tires across the plane of the end gate, the finishing gate. Okay, these cones, they're live until they're touched. And it can be touched by a vehicle, and you get 10 points. It can be touched by the spotter. That's a 10-point hit. If the spotter rope hits the cone, even if the spotter's just walking along and the rope is dangling behind him and it touches the cone, just even by a nick, ding him for the cone. Once that cone has been hit, it's dead. That means they can't come back through and hit it again, even if that cone is being used later on for another gate, because sometimes the same cone is used 2 or 3 times. Not very often, but it is. So this is the point. You need to know your course clearly from what the marshal teaches you or the course designer teaches you and what's on that map. You need to understand that, how that course works. Ask those questions before you start. The last thing is let's say that cone was hit on the way through and the team goes on through the course and they're coming back and that cone is live again. Well, if that cone has been moved, those 4 dots still exist as the point, just for the 3 tire on or between rule. Not for another 10-point hit. They can drive over that point again and it doesn't count against them. However, it is 3 tires on or between to clear the gate. You use those 4 dots that are still there. Please understand that we're talking We Rock, the drivers, the spotters, the fans. We do appreciate what you're doing for us by coming out to judge a We Rock rock crawling competition. It's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a hot day. It's going to feel like a long day. You can help yourself and help everybody out by moving things along. That means as you're getting teams into the gate, into the start gate, let's say it's team number 1 lined up, look around. Do you see team number 2? If you don't, look down at your scorecard, find out exactly who they are and say, hey, team 626, you're on deck, let's go. Then you start that first team through the course. As they're going through and they come through the finish gate, already have it worked out. How you're going to reset your course, how you're going to get that team that just completed the course their score in the fastest amount of time, and how you're going to get that next vehicle on course in the fastest and most efficient way that's obviously safe and practical. That helps everything to keep the day moving. If you need a bathroom break, please don't dawdle. We all understand. We know you gotta go, but get over there quick. If you need some water, ask for it. If you need some food, ask for it. Let's keep things moving at the same time. Just keep your head about you on how things are going. The next thing is we can't say this enough. Be serious, be professional, be fair. Know your rules. Read the rule book. This video is just some assistance. Some rules may have changed. Make sure you know the rules that are in the We Rock rule book and the Cal Rocks rule book. Make sure you know them. Then, if you come to a situation where you're not sure, make sure to ask the marshal. When you're walking the course in the morning with the course designer, ask every question possible, because you make the difference between a winner and loser. You make a bad call, you can cost the true champion an entire season's worth of points and money. It's a pretty big responsibility on your shoulders. A huge responsibility for a volunteer. So we ask you, when you've got the best seat in the house as a judge, yeah, you can be excited about that team making or breaking or whatever it happens to be, but at the same time, give every single team your utmost attention and be as fair as you can possibly be. This day will be a total blast. We appreciate you being here. Be safe, be smart. Welcome to We Rock.